Hi, I'm Adam and this is the UplinkPort. Now I apologise in advance if this video is slightly later than my normal 3-week upload schedule. I've been doing an awful lot of charity work for our local primary school as of late, and it's kind of taken me away from doing all of this outside of work. So if that's not a good enough reason to subscribe, hopefully this is. So whether you're into retro networking gear or just curious on how things work, stick around. Right, I will try and keep this short and sweet because as with everything I do, this really could have its own video in itself. The ADVA product line is massive and there's loads of things to do different things, but this is the ADVA FSP 150EG-X, and the FSP stands for Fibre Service Platform. Now you're probably, if you're in the UK, familiar with these if you are taking services from OpenReach, but the smaller FSP 150CM platforms, which are typically the 15-slot chassis that are delivering Ethernet or point-to-point, one-to-one uncontended circuits out to customers from the exchange. Those are quite commonplace in the UK. It's what OpenReach have used for their vendor for Ethernet circuits for as long as I can remember. But typically they are locked devices. OpenReach do so much now with ADVA that effectively with the new next gen platform, they've got their own product model numbers baked into the ADVA series. Those, when they do come up on the open market, and I'll throw a few pictures of them up now, are typically locked. You cannot get into them in any traditional way to reset them to do anything you want with. Other vendors that buy in ADVA equipment typically don't have that luxury. I think Vodafone on some of the CPEs you can reset, but predominantly everything that you get in from OpenReach is locked to OpenReach. It's managed by OpenReach. You have no control over it other than ordering the circuit, and they simply provide you with a CPE at the customer's end, which at the bottom is the older gen and the top one is the new next gen. And then they will supply you with either a chassis or one of the next gen chassis, effectively, which is just a one new device, exchange side or your local POP. But fundamentally they are very simplistic. The 15 slot chassis effectively has an in and an out. It is literally just a line card. It's a media converter, but a very clever media converter. It sits in the chassis that just controls all of these modules effectively, and it will talk to the end point, and then you can do full end-to-end testing on it. It's a very clever platform, it's a very clever service, but that's not what this is. This is the carrier or backhaul based platform. So this is what's typically connecting all the exchanges together. And unlike the card, there is no in and out on any of the interfaces. It is literally a case of going through and actually programming all of the cards and getting them to basically do what you want to do. It is basically a really clever layer 3 switch with an ADVA twist and spin on absolutely everything, all of which I know nothing about, and it's going to take me a massive learning curve to get this running because Zen have challenged me to get this built in the way that it was in their network, delivering backhaul to their exchanges for DSL and also for Ethernet circuits. So I'm really excited to get into it, but also extremely scared is one way of saying it. The quick start guide for this is almost 60 pages long. I can't remember exactly what it is. And also the actual main guide for this is almost 800 pages long. Again, I can't remember. So it's going to be an awful lot of referencing to the manual to get this to work, but I'm also incredibly excited to be getting on with it. And the only reason I can get on with it is because Zen bought this directly from ADVA, so it is not locked. Now, I have already had this powered up because one of the conditions of me having this was that I factory reset it when it got here, which I have already done. So I know the chassis works and I know the CPE at the top works, which is also something they sent me to pair with this as well, came with it. These were pretty much for demonstration purposes, but I'd like to see if I can get these to work with this as well. So the plan is for this to basically sit in the network between the DSLAM and the rest of the network with BNG and so forth, and it will deliver the backhaul. To that point, I now have a rack that's sitting here that you can't see. My plan is to move the BNG server and all this, that and the other into the cabinet out away, and then effectively having this cabinet as exchange side and then this rack as the POP, and then effectively those two connected via the FSP platform. At least that's the plan for all of this. Yeah. You ever look at something and wonder what you've got yourself into? There's so much else I could have picked to start with in all of this that may have been so much easier, but it is what it is. I'm really looking forward to it. And again, thank you, Zen, for giving me all of this. We'll go over Zen at the end. So, also, just quickly, this is incredibly noisy. I also had to make a custom DC power supply for it. I will talk about that later, but this cannot sit in here while I'm recording. It has 340mm fans in here. They are made of solid metal. They are ridiculously heavy. The airflow through this thing is crazy. I cannot stand anywhere near it and talk and also get any clear audio out of it. So this is going to go next door, and we're going to run cables to it to connect to it to actually be able to do what we need to do with it. So instead of any more rambling from me, I'm going to see you at screen capture. I'm going to log this next door, get it powered up, and I'll see you in a minute. Right, I quickly changed my mind. I realised that I hadn't done anything on the front of this, and this weighs a ton, and I didn't really want to be moving it back and forth. Plus, also, it's not every day you come across the carrier platform. I didn't even know this existed, and the pictures that I got sent of this didn't match what Zen had sent me on the pallet. So even I was a bit surprised when this turned up. So I thought it would be a nice thing to quickly go over before we put it next door. So starting from the top, we have our DC power inputs. There's two of them. After a bit of research, this is what's referred to as a 3W3 D-sub connector, which after a bit of searching, I did manage to find some connectors on AliExpress, and I've made my own cables up. We're also running a Amazon special power supply, which is a Joy Nano 48 volt 10 amp power supply. My wonderful cabling work at the bottom. Ignore the AC side, this is only temporary. Moving forward, this will have a proper dedicated DC power supply. It deserves it and demands it, especially if I plan to be running this a bit more, because I want to be able to leave it running confidently. Having said that, I need to address the noise with the fans. Speaking of which, these things are massive. They are solid metal. They are 140mm. They weigh a ton. Even the fan blades inside these are metal, and I would easily imagine that all three of these together probably account for about 20 to 30% of the weight of the actual chassis in total. Underneath that, we have the AMI, which stands for Alarm and Management Interface. There is a serial port on it, so you can actually get to it from a console access when it's booting. DCN1 and DCN2, which stand for Data Communication Network, and this is effectively almost like the outer bound access or ILO side of stuff, so you can get to this in the event of a switch fabric failure. Underneath that, we have LCN1 to LCN24. They are your line cards. This chassis supports different modules even. They all seem to have the same footprint. This is from the 150CM, and obviously this is from this chassis. They do fit. However, I don't believe that the EXG platform supports these modules, but we'll find out what happens when we plug one of those in later. Ironically, for this channel, we have what's referred to as an STU1 and STU2. That stands for System Timing Unit. They're not installed on this chassis, ironically. The way we're running this doesn't actually need them to be installed. However, there is a mode in which it does need them in, and if I can remember finding it where it is in the manual, I'll throw it up on screen, but as of now, obviously they're not installed, they're not needed. Down the bottom, we have the NEMI1 and NEMI2 slot. That stands for Network Element Management Interface, and is what you'd normally manage the chassis under with normal operation. They would both be connected to the network. They are running in redundancy, so only one is active at any one time, and I believe that's the same for these ports as well, but obviously you'd have all of them connected. Just out of view, you have SWF1 and SWF2. That stands for switch fabric. There are two switch fabric units in this. They are running in redundancy. And then obviously to the left and the right, we have PSU1 and PSU2. And fundamentally, that is it from a chassis point of view. I'm probably not doing this justice. I mean, obviously you've got the cable management at the top for your cables, for your cable routing. You have a removable fan tray right at the bottom. And that is really it. I mean, the only other thing you will notice is the line cards aren't actually physically plugged in, and the reason for that is simply power. Do not have the power budget to have these installed. These particular line cards, once they're plugged in, draw around 500 milliamps. So having two of these in together is drawing an amp. They're also the 10 gig optics, of which I have no 10 gig kit at the minute for the exchange side or the DSLAM side, so I've left them out. We're going to be focusing on the 1 gig SFPs that are currently installed into the modules over here, of which there are 10 of. We're going to be using 2 for now. 1 gig is absolutely fine. As we progress, then we will look at the 10 gig side of stuff. And once I get a beefier DC power supply, then obviously we will plug all of these in as well and get them running. But for now, I think all that's left for me to do is get this next door, and I will see you at the web interface. Hello, right, everything is set up. with that on, despite it being next door, it still sounds like I'm outside the data floor in a data center. That thing is beyond noisy. However, hopefully I've adjusted it enough so that I can actually talk still and you guys hear everything I'm saying. So in terms of setup, which I probably should have taken a video of before I put it next door, but that thing's really heavy. Everything's in here. It wasn't going to work, so I'll throw some pictures up. So on the chassis, we're in ports 1 and 2 on LC module 1 and 2. They're the 2 gigabit ports. One of those cables on port 1 is going into the Netgear managed switch that's in here, and the other end of it is currently on the desk because I don't have enough length on it to plug it into here and show you guys at the same time, but it will be going into basically a dummy switch. On the end of the switch, again, forward planning would have been good. There will be a laptop on the end of it, and then we will do basically connectivity tests out of it. The whole purpose of this section is to simply get the chassis passing traffic through the port on the backplane, so that fiber cable traffic goes in that end and it comes out the other end, and then we can use that as our backhaul, and then we'll test connectivity across it. Now, for full transparency, I thought I'd actually show setting this up as well, and for that it actually means turning it on and jumping in to the console side of stuff and actually factory resetting this. Now, this will not work for any locked devices. This is simply because this is an unlocked device from ADVA, and obviously I have a guide for it. So this is all on COM6. I'll throw the standard details up on screen for connecting. So we're going to jump onto that. I am going to reboot the ADVA, and then to get into it, it is simply a case of just smashing the space bar really until you get to the prompt. And then from memory, it was boot factory defaults. Yes. And then it's literally a case of you've got to physically type yes, and then it will go off and it will load the ADVA without any database structure in it, and then it will be full factory default, so which we can then get to it via the web browser. Now, this takes a few minutes to boot up, so I will come back to you when we're at the login screen. Okay, we are at the login screen, and this has not been without its issues actually this time. Now, full disclaimer, I've already factory reset this device, as I said at the start, because it was one of the criteria that Zen gave me in order for me to ship it, and I had to prove to them that I had factory reset it. So I have seen this page before, and I've also logged in past this page. Now, this page is extremely white, which is why I've installed a dark mode add-on to make it less not vibrant, but less bright. There are quite a few people that watch the channel that have various accessibility issues, and staring at a bright white page with me doing all of this is not going to do them of any benefit. So it's in dark mode, so some of the layout might be somewhat off, but we'll try and work around it. But to get to this stage has been an absolute pain. Normally I would use DCN1 and DCN2, and again, this is a white document, so I apologize, with the IP address of 192.168.0.2. However, DCN1 and DCN2 are not responding to that IP address. I've actually had to plug into NEMI2, which is the Active Network Element Management Interface, in order to get this up. I don't know why. I'm sure we'll find out when we log in as to what's going on with it, but those two ports are not responding on anything. There's no DHCP, there's no static, it's literally like they're not configured. So I don't quite know what the second default, factory default, has done to this. I'm just grateful I can get to it. Now, the default bits for this are root, and the password is change me, if I can spell it, change me now. Capital C for change, capital M for E, and now is all in capitals. Obviously, we're not going to do that. And this is the ADVA. Now, I haven't gone past this point. This thing is a complete world in its own. I have never used anything like this before. And also, with this being in dark mode, I don't know if they're going to display properly, so we may end up having additional issues. But this is so in depth. There is no way I can go through all of this in a video, and I'm not going to. I'm going to have to refer back to the manual myself over and over and over again to see where we are with everything. But just quickly, I'd be really curious to know why DCN isn't working. Now, I have no idea. I mean, I say that I have no idea where it's going to be. I mean, DCN DHCP is disabled. DCN IP address. I don't know. I'm sure that'll become clear as we start to go through all of this. Now, everything in here is as you'd expect. I don't have a clue on any of this. On the left-hand side, we have a file and application. We've got subheadings for everything. So we've got configuration, maintenance, performance monitoring, ESA, CFM, PTP, and SAT. I have no idea what any of these are. This is supposed to be a full management chassis for a enterprise network, so I imagine there's an awful lot we can do with it. But fundamentally, all we want to do is basically bridge port 1 and 2 together and get traffic flowing back and forth between them. It's as simple as that. Now, I believe NE1 is the chassis. I'm guessing line cards. Okay, there's all the slots, which is cool. Now, OC1 has a plus by it. I'm guessing that's because it's a multi-slot module rather than just being a single slot, which it is. Okay, so they're all in there, so 1 to 10. If I click on one of these, I've got nothing to say because I don't know anything about this. We've got configuration as to how it's all currently set up, which apparently is currently set up as an all-to-one. No idea what that means. Flow points. This is what we need to set up. This requires an active flow between these two modules or two interfaces. We've got OAM, CDP filters. This is not displaying at all very well, but from what I remember reading in the guide, this can lock out various vendor protocols. EFM, we haven't got that. Sync E. Now, Sync E is what we require the clock module for. Now, Sync E is to do with syncing multiple circuits together. I think it's for the redundancy side of this. If you have two circuits running together that are providing backhaul to two separate ADVAs, obviously they need to be in sync, and that's what the timing module comes in for. Obviously, we're not running Sync E, so we don't need it. And yeah, there's all the other usual stuff. How do we configure these? Nearest bridge? I have no idea. Honestly, I'm in way over my head with this one. I mean, Zen weren't initially even going to give it to me. They were going to give me the MX 960, I think it was. And when we weren't able to get that, I was like, can I have the ADVA instead? And they did agree to it. There's so much more behind me that I could have got into that may have been easier than this, but this is a big part of what we're doing. It's going to be the backhaul between the DSLAM and the rest of the core network. I've got so much more to talk about as well in this, about bits that are going on in the background. The question is, how do we configure these? Can I right click them? Edit configuration. Alias, administrative protocol, it's in normal operation, it's media type fiber. Okay, so we can configure the SFP types. Remote link IDs, no idea what this is. I know that this chassis can configure remote CPEs, and that's one of the things I'm hoping to be able to get running as well at some point, is the locked BT modules that we've got, which are the, oh, they're on the floor. I would pick one of them up, but everything is leaning against them. It's going to make a noise. The locked ones we've got from OpenReach even are potentially configurable or overridable via this chassis. No idea if that's possible or not, how to even do that, but it's one thing I want to look into. If I can unlock the OpenReach ones, opens the door for a lot more. I think it's probably best if I go through the manual a bit more and try to understand everything that's going on in here, and then come back to you with an update and hopefully start to get a plan together of configuring this so we can actually talk on both ends. Okay, so several hours has passed and I've been going through the manual, and I think I have a general idea of what I need to be doing with all of this. This thing is beyond complicated. It can do so much, and there is so much that we need to revisit on this at some point in the future. And I've made a list of notes literally down under my screen, which is what I'm going to keep referring to, because this thing is, as I said, is just complex. So we basically need to create an ALTA1 policy or an ALTA1 framework. We now then need to create an acceptable frame policy that these all sit in. We then need to create a flow between these as well. So effectively we're bridging all the ports together, and hopefully once we've done all that we should be able to see traffic going back and forth. Now, to prove the fact that this isn't working, I thought I'd actually grab the laptop and start pinging it out to Google and leave that running in the bottom left hand side of the screen. And to do that, a very kind member of the community called John sent me in a digital crash cart adapter from Speedtest, which is here. However, for the past additional 20 minutes I have been fighting to try and get this installed, and it just won't have it on Windows 11. Even forcing the drivers into it, the software keeps coming up saying it's disconnected. So I need to do a bit more research as to getting this working. And I believe he sent me this purely because what I've had to do in order to show that this isn't working is exactly what he hates. So John, I'm very sorry, I have tried to get it to work. I need to spend a bit more time getting it installed. But fundamentally, I'll throw somewhere up on the screen. There is a laptop pinging out to Google. There is no response for it. Now, John is one of our wonderful original community members over on Discord. Discord is open to the masses. The link is in the description. Get involved in Discord. There's a load of us on there. We don't only speak about stuff that's going on in the channel. We also speak about stuff that's going on from a technology point of view everywhere else and everything in between. It's a really good community to be part of, and I am absolutely thrilled to be part of it myself. So get involved. The link for Discord is in the description below, as I said. Yeah, just get on board with that. So I'm just going to get stuck right in. Now, as I said, I think I've got an idea of what I need to be doing. I've got notes all over the place. I'm going to be referring to those an awful lot. I've also set up a ping, which I'll bring down here, which is to the laptop that's on the other end of this link. Now I'm going to put it out the way because obviously we're going to be in Firefox configuring all of this and it's not going to be in focus on the screen. But if it works, you'll see me jump for joy because hopefully I will see that change. I suppose for now, the only thing is literally just to get on and get this configured. To that, continue to that. Okay, I think this being in dark mode is causing a few issues with the page itself. Let me turn dark mode off and see if it loads. Yes, it does. Okay, I'm going to turn dark mode on, but we'll see how we get on with if we can keep this on or whether it's going to start playing silly buggers with the GUI. Okay, so in the manual, the first thing it says is any card that you put in, it will activate, but you need to manually bring things into service. So under here, I spotted before the administrative state needs to be IS, which is in service. So we'll do that for port number 1, and we're also going to do that for port number 2. Now at the corner of my eye, I can see the links have come on both of those. What it also says in the manual is if you need to make any configuration changes to these, you have to take the ports out of service, which potentially is going to be a pain because I have no idea what I'm doing with any of this. Now, we need to configure an OAM flow point, and the flow points then get added into the flow. Bear with me. Right, so we're going to set this up. That's number 2. We want it to be in service. At the minute, we don't care about VLANs. We literally just want everything tagged and untagged to literally flow through this. So we are going to put that in as a star. We're going to add that, apply that. Okay, that's worked. And we're going to do the same for port 2 as well. So flow point 2, to be fair, it's already found that. Star. Add. Now I have spotted this untagged frame support. I don't know. We'll see if we need to amend that later on. Right, so both of those are in, and looking back at the guide, the flow point's separate. The OAM flow point is effectively the ports that will be in the flow point group, if that makes sense. That seems to be in. Now I remember reading we need to actually configure the flow point, which from a manual note was under service. and then I believe it's point-to-point flow. Now if we right click that and say add, we should get this window. Yes, okay, so these are both the interfaces that we need to set up. Administration, or administrative, is in service, which is we want flow group 1, we want port 1 and port 2, so we'll add that in. I have no idea about any of this because I glossed over it. I have no idea about this. Can we just add in any old VLAN and be done with it? Of course we can't. Invalid admin state, no policer is configured. Okay. I'm assuming that's referring to all of this, and there's default ones in place, so let's just tick those. Now is it going to let me add it? No, of course not. Invalid value. For Alter 1, the port of the entity untagged frames should be configured as enabled. Right. Untagged frame. Oh, untagged frame should be configured as enabled. Well, where's that in here? Untagged frame. Enable. Okay, so why are you disabled on that one but enabled on that one? I have no idea. As I said, this is all completely new to me. Apply. Okay, well, that's just gone to operation complete, so what does that mean? Has anything changed? Can I go back to my ping? Oh, we see the laptop. That's super cool. That means traffic is literally flowing from my switch through the fiber link into the ADVA chassis, back out the chassis even, into the CISCO switch, which is then connected to the laptop via Ethernet. That is super cool. I mean, fundamentally, traffic's flowing. That's really cool. Right, I'm going to do a speed test on that laptop and pass that through, because there should all be a gig. So we should be getting close to the theoretical maximum of my FTTP. However, that laptop is not the best in the world. So let's see how that goes. And I also need to work out how to capture that, because that's what this was for that isn't working. Maybe I'll install OBS on that. Right, I need to do some thinking. I will come back to you in a minute. Plan B, unfortunately, that laptop is not happy running OBS by any stretch of the imagination. It's just dropping frames as soon as I start doing a screen capture, which, to be honest, doesn't surprise me. That laptop is probably at least 10 years old by itself. Anyway, I'm just going to use my laptop. I have two network interfaces on this, one of which is already connected to the ADVA for the management, and the other one I've just plugged into the CISCO switch, which is looped through the ADVA into the network, same as the other HP was. The only thing to do is just to do a speed test and actually get traffic passing across it and actually see what that's like. Now, it's all connected at a gig, so it should get close to my FTTP theoretical maximum. However, this is loading incredibly slowly. And apparently that's an iframe. Something's not right here. Hello, Windows laptop telling me to set up automated backup. Wow. What is going on here? Okay. Now, it's entirely possible these optics are dirty. These are all old cables and everything, and none of which have been cleaned. So I should probably do that now just to make sure one of the interfaces isn't erroring. Right, I'm going to do that and come back. Optics cleaning on every cable and every transceiver has made no difference. That should be in the hundreds of megabits per second, and it is not. Digging through the ADVA, I actually finally found the page where I can see the port statistics, and it is under Application, Performance Monitoring, and then you can select the port and actually get the statistics come up for everything that's going on. There is nothing that jumps out to say that there is an issue. There's no CRC errors or anything like that. So I don't think it's an optics problem. I'm getting the sneaking suspicion this may be something to do with the policies, the default ones that I literally just selected, because thinking back to this, there were these policers and shapers. Now, I didn't do anything with these other than select the default ones, so I'm wondering if it's this that's causing the issue, because I had no idea what these are. I suppose it'd be an idea to actually find out where these are, and I'm guessing they're under profiles. What we got? We've got a policer and we've got a shaper, so let's just load this one. Was this the one we had? Default policer policy. Default policer policy. Can I just click on it? Let's. Oh, what's this? Ah, that might have something to do with it. Can I add a new one? Can I edit one of these? How do I edit? Do I right click and go edit? Right. Create wire speed 10 gig. I wonder if it's just going to be best to create a new policy on all of these. I'm guessing add policy 1 gig. Actually, why not in that one? That's the entity or entry ID. We'll call this 1 gig, and I'm assuming these default everything. Oh, that looks good. Yeah, we like that. Apply. And what about the queue? Do we have to do anything with this? Okay, well, I can't add anything to the queue. I mean, these just look like their buffer sizes. Let's go back to here. I'm guessing I'm going to have to take this out of service to do anything with it. How do I do that? Edit. Right. Unassigned. Do I do that first? I have a null value now, whatever that's for. Okay, so let's select 1 gig for that. Let's change this to 1 gig and queue profile 20. Why not? Which was the maximum that we had on there. So let's apply that. And I'm guessing back into service. Well, what does this now do? That's a lot quicker. Is this going to be any different? Much better. Right, okay. Clearly, I should have read the rest of the manual before just randomly selecting those policer values. And that actually makes me wonder, if I hadn't have done a speed test, would I have even spotted that this was an issue? I don't know. I mean, would it have been an issue for anything else? I mean, what I hadn't checked was actually whether latency had gone up previously, which I don't think it had, unless that was to do with it. But overall, it seems relatively stable. I mean, from what I can work out and seeing the policers in here, there's various bits that you can do for throttling and effectively policing traffic. So it's entirely possible that communication protocols like ICMP are running in the background and have no restrictions even on them. This could purely have been for data side of stuff. I don't know what the default policy is for. Again, I can't reach one because they're behind me, but the CPEs that go customer site can be controlled by these. It's entirely possible, I guess, that the policy that's set up, the default one, could be for the remote management side of them, because you don't need an awful lot just to send the config details. I don't know. I have no understanding of the ADVA stuff. There's so much more I need to get involved with this, but it is working. We are passing traffic back and forth. This is going from here through the CISCO switch, through the ADVA chassis, back out and into my Netgear switch. So that appears to be working. The next thing I want to do is juggle things around in here, because what you can probably see behind me is I actually now have a form of rack in here. It's not a proper rack as in it. It's got a case, sides and everything like that. It's literally just the posts, because it turns out that you can buy the posts that you need off of the internet, and that is exactly what I've done here. They have been modified a bit to fit in, but I'll explain about that in a minute. So let me try and work out how I'm going to do this. Let me have a think and I'll come back. Okay, I have a rough plan in my head, and to be honest, I forgot I had this one. I don't think the camera's going to focus. It's been playing silly buggers all day, hence the exposure issues. So well, apologies, I can't do much about it in a minute. This is the other FSP that Zen very kindly sent to me. This is what would go effectively exchange side. I'm going to take out the BNG and the server. As I already said, they're going to go in the cabinet. In the big cabinet. The small cabinet is going to house the DSLAM. We're also going to put this ADVA in as well. Now this has got SFP in and SFP out. I don't have any copper to SFP modules, so we're going to go in as fiber, out as fiber. We're going to go into the existing CISCO switch that's in there as fiber, and then come out of there from copper into the DSLAM. I could go straight into the DSLAM because it's got fiber ports on it as well, and again they're all unconfigured for anything complicated, shall we say. And then in the rack side we will have a longer fiber cable that goes into the rack, that will go into a switch, and then all the cables for copper cables will go into that. So we're basically just bridging the two with a fiber link. I will throw a diagram up at some point as to how that's all going to look. Arguably I don't need this in the loop at the minute, but we might as well. We're going to use it later on anyway, and we need to get everything configured at some point in the future for VLANs and to do Ethernet side of stuff and breakout for all of that, and it was part of the requirement for this. But at the minute, handling DSLAM traffic back and forth is perfectly fine for me, so that's going to go in there. I need to get things moved around, and I will come back to you probably while I'm doing that, so you can see before and after, and also some of this. Right, you've seen this all before anyway. DC power supply, splitter, DSLAM, server, switch, MikroTik, CISCO. Fundamentally, we're going to be moving the CISCO BNG, which is what we use for our MLPPP bonding. So of course the MikroTik doesn't support MLPPP termination, and the server, which is running our radius, DNS, and all the other miscellaneous images that we need. And they are going to be moving over to here, hopefully. This is a 42U post, basically. I got the idea from the serial port video where they had an open rack for all of their test gear. That doesn't work so well in here because it has no noise dampening whatsoever, but it's the best use of my space. I don't have enough room to swing a cat in here. Not that I'd suggest swinging a cat around anyway, but doing something custom like this gives me the best possible use of space and area, and keeping everything else in here usable. I couldn't get a 42U cab in here even if I wanted to. The posts are exactly 42U with the use of an angle grinder, but having the amount on top and the bottom for the potential fan trays and all this, that and the other, and the mounts at the bottom just wasn't going to happen. I could have looked at a smaller cabinet, but trying to find one of those locally that wasn't miles around the UK and also several £100 was just not happening. And I didn't really want to spend £400 or £500 on a brand new cabinet for here anyway. Plus trying to find a data cabinet, so one that's not 1000mm deep, also came with an excess cost. It's not perfect by any stretch of imagination, but it will do. I can fit out the sides with some wood paneling, sort out something with a door. It will do the job. It enables us to continue to grow everything that I want to in here and with the channel and space and whatnot. So I'm excited for it. Whether the floor will hold up or not, I don't know. I have reinforced it with 19mm plywood, but yeah, there is an awful lot of weight already in this rack, and with the ADVA that normally sits in here, it's done well. It's been up here for about a week now. So anyway, I am going to go and move all of that from there into here. Well, not all of it, the bits we've said, and yeah, I'll come back to you because next we're going to get some DSL connections online, get it across the backhaul, hopefully get them terminating, and run some proper tests. Right, I am back. and that has not been fun. It's quite late into the evening now, as you can probably tell by the color difference in the background. I'm also being blinded by lights everywhere to try and actually make this half usable. However, just moving stuff around and my OCD took forever. I got sidetracked with other things and life, and well, it will do for the purposes of this video. Now, the first thing we need to do is actually program the ADVA, which, if I switch screens, is currently sitting here. However, I'm getting, sorry, an error occurred in Firefox. If I jump over to Chrome, it does actually load. Now, I assumed quite naively that this might be the same as its bigger brother, and it does look very much similar. I have had a quick poke through the menus. However, I believe this is slightly different. There are no flows there, and multi-point flows are there. I guess I'm just going to have to see if maybe the first thing I notice is port 1 on here is configured in maintenance mode, which isn't something I have done, and there is a flow configured. So I am going to go and very quickly delete all of this and hopefully get passing traffic. The other issue I've got is previous Adam decided to put all of the stuff that was in the rack on his local LAN for ease of access to everything. That is now completely separate from my network, which poses an issue. I can get around it by uplinking my LAN network or the switch on the wall to the switch in the smaller cabinet, which should then pass traffic around. I should be able to get to it, no issues at all. But in order to do that, we need to configure the ADVA. Now, I have got a command prompt up, which is pinging the ESXi gateway in the background, so I know when this works. However, I need to get to that point first. Where was I? Right, configuring this. Edit configuration. Let's put you into service. And port 8, I think, is on the other side of this, which apparently is already in service, which is good. Are any of these also in service? No, they're disconnected, so normal version. I haven't done any of this, by the way. I don't even know what a DCN configuration is. Is this even going to be the same? If it's not, then I will pause and we will I'll work it out. I'm assuming it's an EFM OAM? Or do I, oh no, I do it there now, obviously. Okay, this is different to everything else. We've got policies, but do I need to set any of these? I imagine this is committed. No. Motion egress rates. I have no idea. Let's just apply and see what happens. Apply. Oh, connect cloud. Is an EPL mode. What? What is EPL mode? Is there a flow already set? Yes, there is. Delete flow point. I said I haven't done any of this. This is literally what? Invalid state. In service. Okay. What out of service? Unassigned. Apply. Yes. I get why you need to do all of this, but it is frustrating. Right, in service, apply. I don't even know if I'm doing this right. I haven't even looked at the manual for this. I'm just going off of what I did initially. Flow point ID 1. I can't remember what I set the other one as. I really wasn't paying attention with any of this. Right, flow point 1. Port 8, flow point 1. Does that now mean, have I got anything going on here? No, we've still got no traffic. So if I do a multi-flow point in service, circuit, flow point, you apply. taking a long time processing, and I still have nothing on here. Timed out. You're going to give me a better error message than that? I'm assuming these all have to be on the same index. Apply again. Entry already exists. Okay, well those are in there. Does this now mean this is forwarding traffic? No, of course it doesn't. Am I pinging? Well, the ESXi host is up. I'm going to go and have a play. I will come back to you in a bit. I don't even know where to begin to start. All I can say is literally everywhere in my office there is fibre cables, there are modules. This has not been an easy ride or journey. It's been a learning experience. I always say as an engineer, every day is a learning day, and this is no different. And sometimes it's also okay to say, I don't know. I don't know. This has driven me round the bend. So this wonderful idea of a NTE, CPE, whatever you want to call it, the one that Zen very kindly shipped with me. In the last clip, I configured all the flows as I thought they were supposed to be. Going through the documentation in great detail, because it still wasn't working, what I had done was correct. However, there are two things to this. So, number one, when you configure these, and I've disconnected this at a second, so this is just being held in the browser, so I'm not going to click on anything because I'll lose it, but I'm going to move that out of the way because it's heavy and it will probably fall on the floor at some point. When you configure the interfaces, you configure the flow points as you normally would do. You don't have to do anything special with these, and then you go down and you configure your multi-point view. So your multi-point view is your group, you add all of your multi-flows into it, and it should just work. And it should. However, when you configure these, there are two things that you need to do. Number one is you need to turn on MAC address learning. Number two, the policy shaper. I left everything default, and when I did it, everything was set to 0, and I did wonder if that was going to cause an issue, and yes it did. Everything being set to 0 means that they won't allow any traffic back and forth. You are basically got 0 kilobits of ingress and egress traffic. It locks it out. You have to set the policies on both of the flows, and then things should just start to work. Now, they didn't, and I have been going round and round in circles. Yes, I've been testing and it's not been working, but it's been working because of something else, and that comes in the form of the chassis. So fundamentally, going back and forth with all of this, I got to the point where I just couldn't pass any traffic, and then it dawned on me, what happens if I prove a point by taking this and literally putting it in between one of my switches in the network and an in and an out. It passed traffic. It was, ICMP was going through, I could get to stuff on it, it was working fine. I took the chassis and I connected it directly to the switches, traffic was passing absolutely fine as we had done earlier. However, if you connect the chassis to this, the link comes up this side, but on the chassis it brings the link down. Now I assumed that it was cabling, so I've changed cables, I've cleaned cables, didn't work. I'm sure somewhere in the ADVA there is really comprehensive logs of what was going on. I need to get this video out. I've spent way too much time on this trying to work this out, but I have a better understanding of what's going on. I initially thought that the flows on the ADVA were conflicting with each other. So I set the flows up differently on the chassis and on that. So that was flow 1 and that was flow 10. That did not make any difference whatsoever. On the chassis and on the smaller CPE, I changed all of the policing to allow everything, even to the point where it would allow a loop to occur within the network or a broadcast storm, it has made no difference. If I grab one of these, which is one from an Ethernet circuit, and plug the chassis into the network side on this, it comes up and it passes traffic through, no issue at all. What I have also done is I've connected the access side and the network side on this to the smaller CPE, and as soon as I do that, it shuts down the link on this ADVA, the one I've just shown you. So there is something configured on the smaller ADVA that is, once it sees another ADVA device, it is shutting down the remote network interface, or something's happening. I imagine there is some form of ADVA communication layer that I'm missing, similar to maybe the CISCO Discovery Protocol, but for the ADVAs, I don't know. I want to spend more time on it, however, I need to get this video out. So that is not going to happen tonight or tomorrow or any time before I've got to get this out. I am going to throw this in cabinet side. The other thing I have also done is I have managed to brick the CISCO managed switch that I had in the cabinet. So there is that. I don't have that at the minute. So exchange side is pretty much going straight into the DSLAM. It's not what I wanted, but it's all I've got left at this moment in time. I do have another switch I could put in. I have my Ubiquity switch, which I've got sat spare, so I'll probably just throw that in just to build that up and put this in. So it has been a long afternoon, but at least it's pointed me in a direction, and I know I'm not going mad. The flows on that device were working. It's just when it's seeing another device or ADVA device, it's shutting it down. And stupidly, I never bothered to check the chassis to see if the port was up. I was always relying on the CPE to see that the link was up. Never do that. We all make mistakes. It's just anyway. So the game plan, because it's late, I need to get this finished. I need to get this edited. I'm going to throw all this together, get the connectivity working back and forth, which I'll prove to you, and then we'll fire up and get hopefully a DSL connection working back and forth, because I know the communication works for the chassis. I know it works through one of these. It's not what I wanted to use, but it's going to work. The other thing is as well is the new ones of these are fanless. This thing is just ridiculously loud. There is no way I can keep this in here for any length of time and use it, so it's probably not a bad thing, but I do want to get it working. So if I do, I will post an update somewhere. Right, I'm going to stop rambling because I have no idea how long this video is already. I'm going to throw it all together and I'll come back to you in a minute. Okay, before we do anything else, I thought I'd very quickly just go over the map as to the current layout, because obviously a lot has happened today, a lot has happened in the past, and I just wanted to recap where we are in terms of network layout and topology. So everything on the left, I don't know why I'm using my hand, you can't see that. Everything on the left is data center. Everything on the right is exchange side. So we have our routers connected into our DSLAM, so our ZYXEL. That is going into our exchange switch. That is then connected into our ADVA CPE. Now I could go directly from the ADVA chassis, the link that's coming into the cabinet, straight into the DSLAM, but we want to be able to break out Ethernet services later on. It's all capable of doing it. It is a bit overkill at the minute. Future plans. That's then going off into the ADVA chassis, which is sitting on the other side of the shed. That is then linked obviously to the DC switch, which is up in the cabinet. Words, Adam. That is then connected to our radius and DNS on our ESXi host, which then goes off to our BNG, and that is directly connected to the interwebs. That's doing our routing at the minute. At some point in the future, we will probably add an access device here. That'll enable us to do Ethernet connectivity out of the exchange switch side of stuff. There's a lot of future capacity built into this. In reality as well, the ADVA chassis should actually be data center side. It's in the middle just to show that there is something physically connecting all of these together. But that is the current setup. Right, let's go and show you it, because I want to go to bed. Right, exchange side. Ignore the alarm light, it's just because there's another power supply that isn't plugged in on these. The orange light over there that you can see basically means that it's linked, but it's not happy with the SFP module it's in it. It is an ADVA SFP, however normally you would have the BIDI or single link SFPs in there. So we have our ADVA, which replaces the small one which we've had issues with. This cable here is going off to the chassis. That is coming in on the network side. On the access side, we have a multi-mode link which is going into the SFP port on our Unify switch. And then on the Unify switch, we have the MSAN connected to the DSLAM over on port 1. That is it. It is nice and simple. Because the management side for the ZYXEL is on my local network, that is linked into the switch, and my local network is linked into the switch as well, because I can then get to all the other stuff in the DC side. I need to tidy it up and sort it all out. It's a bit of a hack together at the minute, but for now it's serving as it needs to be. It is exactly as it was. It's just the fact that fundamentally there's just a fiber link now between this cabinet and the rack, with a great big ADVA chassis in the middle. Right, when I said the chassis is literally in the shed, it is literally in the shed. It is in the shed side of the summer house. But this is basically it. It is freezing out here as well, so I'm not going to be too long doing this. However, the amount of heat that's coming out from this at the second is ridiculous. It's kind of keeping me warm, but that is fundamentally the chassis. We have the link to the exchange side, and then the link to the data center side. Obviously they're linked, you've got status lights, and that's fundamentally it. This is completely overkill for what we're doing, but the fact that we've actually got it running and passing traffic as it was designed to be doing, to me, is a fantastic achievement. Putting all this at the top is a pain in the arse for recording, so I might move it, because I'm currently at the top end limits of the tripod. Anyway, that's not your issue. The feed at the top is what's coming in from the chassis. Obviously that's going into our DC switch. The red cable is what's running into the back of the ESXi host, which you can just see sat there. The yellow cable is the out-of-band access for it, which again is linking back through, but I can get to everything fundamentally. The blue feed at the top is going into the BNG, and then the blue feed above that in the CISCO, which is going up onto the roof, is going across back into my network and providing access to the interwebs. And all of that to literally connect this, the SMC. The SMC is where all this started. So this has come back into the equation, and yeah, everything is just working. That's pinging out to Google, and all that's really left is just to do the obligatory speed test. Now this is in sync at the usual 8 meg down, I think 448k up. And that's basically bang on what we're getting for the download. Well, that's optimistic on the upload. I have no idea what's going on with that. It's certainly not in sync at that. But either way, it's working. I am going to keep this short and sweet. This video has been all over the place. You've probably spent most of it just watching me do nothing, and if that's the case, I apologize. I actually need to get this edited still. There's so much I still need to do to try and get it out before Friday. I was hoping this video would go without any hiccups, but what would one of my videos be without mistakes and without hiccups? Anyway, it is what it is. It's been fun. It's been a learning experience. This thing is an absolute beast. I need to spend some more time going through the documentation to work out what it can and can't do. On that note, I'm really proud of where we've got to with it today. Having no experience with this and having a document that's almost 800 pages long, to be able to pick out the key points and actually get this configured and passing traffic like it would have been in Zen's network, I think is quite an achievement. Now, yes, we have had issues with the XG116Pro in that whenever it talks to another ADVA device, it shuts the uplink port down. You see what I did there? I need to understand that. There's clearly something I've missed or is misconfigured, but I will get to the bottom of it. The issue I've got is there's not many ADVA engineers in the UK that I'm aware of. Yes, Zen have got these in their network. It's where this originally came from, and Brad has already reached out to me to see how I'm getting on with this, but I don't like to ask for help unless I absolutely need it. So I'm going to go through all of this when I'm more wide awake to see what I've missed and if I can get around it. And if I can, I will post an update. If I can't, Brad, I'm going to ask for assistance, because this thing's crazy. It's an absolute monster, but it's been good fun. The issue I do have with it is this is now integrated into the network between the DC rack and the exchange rack, and this thing's noisy, so I'm going to have to run a cable between there and there to be able to do anything in the future without having to turn this on, until I can work out a way of coexisting with this somehow. I can't keep moving it back and forth. It weighs too much. It's like 50 kilos. It's ridiculous. So yeah, I need to work that one out. But there is an awful lot upcoming. There's the MX104 that's still sat in the rack, which we'll probably use to terminate the BGP. Well, we will be terminating BGP sessions on it at some point in the future, but I meant acting as a BNG. We've got a Juniper M10i, which I know nothing about, and also the Foundry Networks MLX-8. There is something else in front of that, but I can't read the name because it's on the floor. There's a lot coming up, so make sure you get subscribed. Do me a favor, like the video and put in the comments, Adam, you're amazing, this is fun, you're fantastic. Just help me grow the channel. It's the best way you can support me in all of this. I am absolutely privileged and honoured to have a sponsor like Zen with everything that's going on as well. They absolutely spoil me with stuff that I have in the past and upcoming as well. I think I've got another MSAN hopefully coming, that's an EFM MSAN. Also a test head end that would have been in exchange for testing PSTN lines. There's an awful lot upcoming, so make sure you get subscribed because I'm going to be going through all of that as well. And speaking of Zen, as always, I have to give a massive thank you to Zen. If it wasn't for Zen in the original MSAN that is sat next to me, none of this would exist in the format it does. So I have to give a massive thank you to them. If you are in the market in the UK for residential broadband, go and check them out. The link is in the video description below. They are a fantastic bunch of people. Speaking of people, I've also got news on me and the company that I work for. So having a chat with them the other week, they have allowed me to talk about them in future videos. So the company I work for is a company called Structured Communications. They want to be involved, and it's good because it then means I can actually raid the e-waste pile in the office with hopefully not getting in too much trouble. They've also agreed to sponsor me a AltNet FTTP line on our layer 2 network, which means I get all the IPs I want, the ASN we want. I can then build out all the publicly accessible stuff, get everything online as we want to. There is an awful lot of good stuff upcoming, and I'm slowly losing the ability to talk. It is very, very late and I need to get all of this edited as well. I'm going to call it there. Guys, if you are still watching, you are absolutely amazing. You're incredible. I cannot thank you enough. Make sure you stay, get subscribed. Oh, Discord. I was going to mention Discord. Get involved in Discord. The link for Discord is also in the video description. I'm in there. There's a load of us in there now. We talk about everything regarding the channel, upcoming content, other content I don't even know anything about. They're a good bunch of people in there. They're people that help me out with everything I do, and yeah, get involved. Link is in the description. Right, I am going. Take care. I will see you in the next one.